Hey guys, Corone here. Now, so I just adjusted my my headset location. So you may be wondering, why am I playing WoW? Well, okay, so I'm getting back into WoW. So this video, I'm currently playing as you can play for free if you're under level 20, but it's really limited. For now, I'm just having a go at new realm, playing Worgen for some reason, and I needed footage, honestly. So, okay, so this is going to be sort of a video of how have my experiences been with with this game in the past. Now, I've got mixed feelings about this game. First and foremost, I've got huge nostalgia for it, like absolutely huge, like nostalgia for leveling up from scratch. I've got no other characters in this realm. I do still have all my mains on another realm. This is the only character I've got on this realm. So, some backstory to me playing this game previously. So, I was it's a cool little thing. So I started playing in Wrath of the Lich King, and so I leveled up in Wrath of the Lich King, and I jumped straight into my first raid. So I'm gonna just start straight up with the raids. Aside from the nostalgia of leveling, raiding was the main thing I did in WoW, as well as a bit of PvP on the side. So I started off. I had a level 80 warrior, undead warrior, and this was back on an old realm. I've since moved to a different realm. So yeah, this was back in the Lich King. Now, my first experience, the dungeons were hard. I'm gonna say that first. The dungeons and heroics were hard, and they made me they just inspired me even more and made me almost revere raids. And so I was in this really social small guild at the time, and I was a warrior. If this person's got invincible. So yeah, I was a warrior. I leveled up with arms, and my guild were really gearing me towards being a tank, because they needed a tank for raids. So I mean, me being me, I obliged. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can tank for you guys. So once I hit level 80, I geared up as a tank. We went into Naxxramas, 10-man. I loved Nax. Nax was my one of my favourite raids. Maybe because it's my first raid, but it's a really complete raid. And I'm gonna say I don't even care that it was. I don't even care that it was a rehash from vanilla, because I never experienced it as vanilla, honestly. Call me selfish, but yeah. So I was glad to do Nax. We started with the Spider Quarter, and we went to do the first boss. And bear in mind, I was not prepared for anything like this. I got splatted immediately, and from then on, I was hooked into raiding. So I geared up a bit more, and eventually we felt, well, okay, our clan is too small. We're struggling to get enough numbers in, so So we're going to join this bigger guild. Before I go on, I should say I am a Horde player, Horde fan, despite what you're seeing on screen. And I'm deeply into the Horde lore. But I thought I'd make a change. I mean, I'm on a role-playing server, Argent Dawn, on this account, and it's like I've got two forms. That's why I'm a Worgen, and I like the idea of being an arcane mage. Like back in the day, I'd attack these people because they're enemies. Is that name allowed on an RP server? Okay, so where are some enemies? So yeah, so next Rammus, we joined this 25-man guild. All of our clan joined. We just merged straight in, and so we started 25-man raiding. Now that was a big difference. I was always the off tank because the guild master was the main tank, and it's like, okay, I'm new. I'm a new off tank, new to the game, and yeah, I panicked a bit. But within 2 raids, I got on the hang of it, and my guild wanted me to main tank. Look at that stage. I never even considered speccing DPS like at this point. So yeah, it was basically all tanking that I did during this time, during Nax, and as I geared up, we killed more bosses, more. We were the second 25-man guild on the server to clear Nax, and I believe at the time we were the top 25-man guild on the Horde side, and so there was this website I kept checking, and it kind of compared your gear with other people's gear. So yeah, I was all up in that, and I was like, I want to see how I stack with other tanks. By the end of Nax Rammus, I was in the top page of the top gear tanks on the server, which, considering I had only been playing for about 4 months by the time Ulduar came out, that was pretty impressive. During that time we also did Obsidian Sanctum, which I got my Black Drake, which I can show here, and it's one of my favourite drakes, like, in the entire game. I got this the day after I shelled out 2k for the Red Drake. I was like, damn it. But I mean, a decent mount is decent. Obviously it's not as prestigious now because, like, it's level 80 content in a level 100 game. It's going to be blitzed. So we also tried Malagos, but Malagos was a bit beyond mostly because people were absolutely, well, frankly, shit in vehicles, as most people were back then. But I was still able to top damage meters in the last phase, which I was actually pretty happy with because I had nailed that boss. So how would I have prepared for raids? So I prepared for raids back then, using tank spot. Excuse me. Using tank spot and deadly boss mods. These were my best friends, basically. Tank spot was awesome. I mean, all credit that the guy got a job at Blizzard, but I sort of miss tank spot. if not just for like the podcast. Obviously now you don't actually need boss guides because you've got the dungeon journal and it's just straightforward in there. But I'll get onto that. I'll get onto that with my thoughts on the game as a whole. So I think Nax was amazing. Obviously, I never got the sense of repetition because I never played it in vanilla. And then Ulduar came out. Now I'd gotten used to Nax, and I was like, oh, what's this that's come out? Ulduar. What the hell is this? I didn't even realise it was another raid at the time. and people clued me up on, okay, this is how gear works. There's this tier. You are this tier. We are going to be this tier. Unless you do Ulduar, you are not going to be the same tier as us. So back then I was like, okay. Now this was during a difficult period for the clan. Now we were trying to get Immortal and Undying titles, which we never got. I think we got Undying. Never got Immortal. Immortal was basically do 25-man Nax at level, have everyone below a certain item level, and not die. Like that's basically it. Just no one dies in the entire run. And like with that, we used a 2-man Hygon the Unclean, me and the healer. Like for 3 hours we were on this boss. That boss needed an enrage timer, but it was actually pretty funny. That so many people were bad at this boss. It made me laugh. Like I learned how to do this boss extremely quickly, and so many people still failed at it, and it was like, wow. Of course, the other problem is the healers, if they got too close at Hygon, would be just... there'll be silence. Excuse my yawning, I'm actually... like, it's quite late here. So... so our clan actually merged with another clan. And... now, I completely disagreed with this decision. I felt there was no need. There was literally no need to merge with another clan, because we were top of the server, aside from one alliance guild. But I don't think anyone ever matched that alliance guild. Not even us at a later stage, which I sort of I'm still salty about. So yeah, so we started doing Ulduar with 25. We had a new guild master through the merge, and he was a new raid leader, and he was a dick. So I was still off tanking for most of the time during Nax. Ulduar was the first time that I actually started main tanking, and I also started building a DPS spec, which was arms. Now a lot of people back then were like, arms DPS? How can arms DPS exist? Yeah, like most people were Fury DPS. There was only me and one other warrior on the entire horde side who were arms DPS warriors. But this was my off spec. I think this was about the same time that dual spec came out. So that was really handy. So we went into Ulduar. I got a lot of good offhand loot, including Black Ice, which was a drop-off Malagos pole arm, which was really good for pole arm spec arms warriors, and it just looked awesome. Like, it looked completely out of place. It looked like a mage weapon, yet it had like stats for arms warriors. Back then, I would actually use agility on an arms warrior, and agility would increase crit, but not so much damage. But I mean, back then we didn't care whether we had agility or strength. Honestly, no one did. Well, I guess hunters didn't want strength because they actually gained nothing out of that, but we still gained stuff out getting agility. So we were doing all we did Flame Leviathan easy. We did the first 4 bosses really easy. And then we started hard modes on XT because he wasn't too difficult for us to down. Then eventually we killed the big guy with the arms. We did Iron Council, eventually changing onto hard mode for that as well. We did one of the Watchers. Hodir, we would always get that. I don't think I ever had a kill on Hodir which wasn't hard mode, which was basically a quick kill. Same with Thorum. Now, it was at this point that the new guildmaster took the bank, ninja'd the guild bank and left, just out of nowhere, as well as BOEs, and it was actually pretty devastating for the clan. I don't know why it was so devastating, but yeah, the clan basically broke apart. Some of the remnants remained and reformed the old clan, but I didn't stick around. With all this drama, I also left. I left on good terms, mind you, and I started leveling up a Death Knight, and I started doing a lot of PvP and some pugs. I was also leveling up a Druid at this time as well, so I was leveling up a Death Knight and a Druid. So it then came... Oh, I want to kill this thing. I don't know what this thing is, but I hope I don't pull aggro. So, I probably will. So, yeah, I never got to finish Ulduar until much, much later. So, eventually Trial of the Crusader came out, and Trial of the Crusader was... a lot of people hated it because it was only 5 bosses. It was basically an intermediate content because Blizzard were taking too long with Ice Cream Citadel, which, I mean, if we look at the state of the game now, well, Trial of the Crusader is a welcome thing. Like, having an extra tier stuck in because the wait is a bit too long. That's much better than some of these waits that we're having now. I think Nixie was also brought in at this time as well. So I actually started farming Onyxia constantly because I wanted this Onyxian mount, and they really didn't tune out well because we were going in undermanned as well. I also started farming for the Ravenlord mount. And I was making a lot of gold, but I wasn't raiding, which was a problem. Now, Trial of the Crusader comes out, and I still at this time have not found myself a raiding guild. But through pugs, I'm actually still top 10 gear-wise on the server for tanks, which was crazy that I wasn't actually being able to find a guild. But the reason why I wasn't finding a guild is that there was no guild to find. There were so few guilds in my realm. Now, during the start of Trial of the Crusader, there was a clan that popped up in our server that were recruiting, and they were all really high item level. They had realm firsts under their belts, so I took an interest. I welcomed him to the server, and when they formed the guild, I actually joined them, and I joined them as a class leader for warriors as well. Now, this is where my raiding went crazy and got a bit serious. They were a serious raiding guild, like, much more serious than the 25 man, and they would run 10 mans for gearing, but 25 man was their main focus. But more than that was hard modes. They were going for heroic Trial of the Crusader, and they wanted realm first. Now, so I joined this guild, and so did quite a few other people that I knew from around the realm. They were top of the realm, like the very best. And what we had in this guild was absolute success, like literal success all the time. Where are some Darkshore groupers? I can't find any. So I keep saying too much. Sorry. I'm not like post recording this. I'm speaking as I'm playing. So I joined this guild. It was a guild called Equilibrium, and so we had quite a decent command structure. We had a class leader for each class, a few raid leaders, and the rest were basically like other kind of command staff. So we actually didn't get that many people. I think recruitment stopped after 30. It was a very exclusive clan. Like, we didn't want too many. First raid we did, we cleared. Well, yeah, we cleared all of 10 man. Trial of the Crusader, and now this was with the gating system. We had taken a while to get started. This was with the gating system, so there was that. I can't find Darkshore Grouper, but yeah. So 10 ads were really easy. We didn't get wrong first with those. We started 25 mans, and like there was the attempt system as well. So now 25 man was a lot harder. I was still, well, I was now an off tank, not a main tank, for this new guild. But in addition to that, I also had a very competitive DPS spec, and I was actually asked to take my off spec, which was DPS, more than I was asked to take my tank. Now, the reason for this is that our guild, like, we had a lot of people with a tank spec, and we had one dedicated tank, who he was the tank. Now, what happened? Like, the way we did this is that we had different types of tanks for this. So I was a tank who was hit and expertise capped. I was the only tank on the entire realm who was expertise capped to this point, and this was super useful for Gormok, which was the first boss. And so we got a lot of different types of tanks. They're all used for different fights. So yeah, that was great.
Salutations.
We brickwalled on the heroes, quite a lot, and like our training was that like everyone had to go and do some battlegrounds and arenas during the week when we're not raiding, which I was fine with. I'd just been doing some stuff like in PvP as an arms warrior, and I quickly found out that Bladestorm is basically auto win. So the heroes weren't really that difficult. We just got a bad pattern the first week. So we eventually cleared 25 man. We made a start on 25 man heroic, but we ran out of attempts quite often on 25 man heroic. So we'll move back down to 25 man, and we were trying to get zero, like realm first 0 attempts, 25 man. By this point, Algalon had still not been killed on our server, and we were also starting to grind Algalon, and we managed to get Algalon down to 2% before the time expired, the day before the reset. And so the day before the reset, and then so it was on a Tuesday, and then the Wednesday after the reset, we normally did try the Crusader, but some of us wanted to do Aldor because we were so close to getting Algalon. By this point, I was the most geared tank on the server, barring the main tank of our guild, and I was one of the most geared arms warriors on the server as well. Well, warriors in general. And so we actually decided we'll do Algalon tomorrow. We'll just clear as much of 25 man as we can with 0 attempts. See if we can do it that week. The reason for this is we were all still gearing up, even if we were almost fully geared from 25 and only needed 25 heroic gear, which we eventually started doing 25 man heroics and clearing it. So we were on 0 attempts. We got to the Valkyries, and we were feeling good about this. We thought we could get another rack that day, and then we get the worst message I've ever seen in chat. We had a message come up in this chat box whilst we were fighting the Valkyries. Avarice, which was the Alliance Guild, top Alliance Guild on the server, Avarice has achieved realm first Algalon 25 man kill, and Ventrilo went nuts because, man, we could have done it. We could have done it today. Like, we could have beaten them, and we were so salty. We actually dropped the Valkyries as well, and we lost that realm first as well that same week. Because a fellow Horde Guild actually managed to get it, which were actually rising to the top. Now, this fellow Horde Guild was coincidentally actually the guild that had come from the ashes of the previous guild I had been in. So that was a bit So we were actually ranked number 1 on the server as a guild, though, despite not having any realm firsts under our name. But we basically had all the realm seconds, and we had cleared a lot of the content. So Icecrown Citadel comes out, and we drop a lot of active flares. Like, a lot of people went inactive. for some reason, including the main tank, who was also the main raid leader, and the clan actually just completely dissolved. It just dissolved almost overnight. It was there for one patch, and then it died. I mean, we were top of the realm. We could have cleared Ice Crown easily. So yeah, that sort of dies. So I sort of don't have much options because the other guild was no longer recruiting. Their roster was full. So yeah, I was searching around and I found this other guild, who weren't as serious. They weren't like top, but raiding was raiding. So I joined them. They were mostly a 10-man guild. I joined them mostly as a DPS. Like at this point, I had turned into a main arms DPS, and I was actually putting out quite a lot of written guides on arms warriors back then.
I need to target something first.
I've got polymorph, so that was fun. Oh, what's this? Adventure guide. Anyway, so yeah, we weren't doing too great. We were falling behind a lot of other guilds. I was a little frustrated, mostly because we were pretty far behind other guilds. But I guess I couldn't really complain too much, because I knew this wasn't going to be a top guild, and honestly I needed a break from top guilds at that point. So despite this, I still managed to maintain being the most geared tank on the server for a decent amount of time, until eventually I lost that honour. So we actually cleared 10 man relatively quickly. We did some chair 25 mads, but not many. I had to pug to get my my armor pen trinket, and like at this point the itemization in Wrath had hit a really stupid level where you had me, who was playing an arms warrior. I was armor pen capped, I was crit capped, and I was coming close to the haste cap. And my druid, who was my ult, like I was speccing Resto and Boomkin on him, and I was hitting a lot of my healing breakpoints, and I was raiding with him as much as I was with my warrior by this point. My Death Knight, I wasn't really playing him that much. I started playing him a lot more in Cataclysm, which was funny. So yeah, I was doing Ice Crown Citadel with these guys. We cleared a majority of it with 10 man, and then Syndragosa happened. And if you're in a raiding guild that wasn't top of the top at this time of Wrath, you know exactly what I'm talking about with Syndragosa. Brick walled for months. We had over 120 attempts on that one boss, and we still had never killed her. And this was ridiculous. I mean, it was, someone would always make a mistake, and at this point I was getting really frustrated because I felt, well, I guess I was a bit big-headed here because I was actually never the one making the mistakes here. It was always other people. I mean, it's easy to blame other people now, I guess, but I never really did anything wrong. My DPS was joint highest with an enhancement shaman at the time, and yeah, that was quite funny because we were always fighting over the meters. But yeah, like DPS is good. I just don't know why. Like, I don't know how we made 120 attempts and still didn't kill the boss. So eventually we were really struggling on members. We were never winning Vault of Archimond anymore, and the whole server was starting to really struggle from a complete imbalance of Horde and Alliance. There were up to 70% more Alliance. Well, there was 70% Alliance and 30% Horde on the server. There were many top Alliance raiding guilds and only 2 main Horde raiding guilds, and that is including us.
I can't cast that yet.
But we couldn't compete with the Alliance guilds. Now, this is the point which became really crazy. Like, this is one thing I absolutely loved about my server. So, from the start of Ice Crown to to midway through Ice Crown, the Horde and Alliance on our server started getting really hostile towards each other, as in super hostile. You would have people go to Outlands to cap that base just to annoy the Alliance. And this wasn't a PvP server. Something really unique happened at the start of the Ice Crown raid. So, like, 3 of the Alliance guilds had allied together and started sieging our cities non-stop, as in all important NPCs dead, and they were camped there for days on end. And it was really funny because we then did the same to them at the same time. I was like, no one could really get much progression. And I mean, this continued for ages, but I think the big tipping point was eventually we ended up, well, we let it drop. So did the Alliance. We came to an agreement to stop doing this because it was hurting everyone's progress. But halfway through Ice Crown Citadel, they did it again. And this was after Realm First thingy was killed. Realm First Lich King. And they had nothing to do, so they thought they're going to camp Orgrimmar and under the sea constantly. This was the sort of tipping point for me that, well, they were so much more in number this time than they were before. I mean, there's so much more. Like, we could not do anything to stop them. And we couldn't even siege their cities anymore because they had enough to defend that as well. So, for multiple reasons at this point, I realm switched without saying a word. In hindsight, I should have told my guild at least, because I sort of did burn some bridges because of this. So I so I moved to Draenor, which was a big realm, and had a lot of good raiders. I joined this guild quite soon after because I was pretty well geared. I joined this guild, and there were a bunch of people I actually knew from my old realm that had come over to this new realm as well. So I joined them, and we cleared Cinderosa week 1. Week 2, we cleared the Lich King, and I was like, really, is this that easy? And then it was back then that I met a guy called Hexu, which some of you might know. He's pretty well known. He's basically the blind British guy who he had a traumatic experience, let's just say, in Iraq, I believe it was, and he basically played blind. I thought it was amazing that he was top of the meters playing blind. He would also macro follow someone though, but I mean, I was just gobsmacked that he was actually playing the game at all. So, this guild actually fell apart eventually, and lo and behold, my old guild, which I had just like left in the lurch from realm hopping, they had realm switched to this realm as well, the entire guild. And so before I'd actually sort of urged them, we could get more numbers by moving to this new server. Eventually I did, and now I sort of still had contacts, but I'd burned some bridges, but they were willing to give me a second chance and benefit of the doubt. So yeah, that's when Cataclysm hit. I never really cleared Ruby Sanctum. I never had the time to. So that's when Cataclysm hit. We all leveled up pretty quickly, and we went into Bastion of Twilight. So we brickwalled on that first boss for fucking ever. Well, we couldn't even get past the trash. So we started clearing the other dungeon. This got actually rather funny because it got rather funny because so many people would fall off the platform at Magmore. At this point, I'd gone back into being a main tank for this expansion, and by main tank I mean like really, really main tank. And I settled with it. I was also gearing up my my druid at the same time, and I was staying on par gear wise. Anything I did with my clan, I also did with a pug on my druid, to get my loot. So yeah, from then we eventually started clearing Bastion of Twilight. We actually discovered a strategy for us to use. So we would always get whelps, and they would also screw us over. Now, so this boss would be like a weekly thing. Every week you would have different mobs that you have to kill in addition. And so I was on very good terms with one of the assistant, well, one of the deputy guildmasters. He was a druid, a resto druid, and he was about my age. And I started saying to him, right, I've got an idea, but you're going to have to save the battle res for me. Now, like, so I asked to go as DPS during that boss. I asked someone if their off-spec tank could tank, and it was quite good because we actually got a bear tank, and they have swipe. So against these whelps, it'd be quite good. Well, it could be better, as you'll find out. So the strategy was, I was going to pop all of my DPS cooldowns. Back then, I was actually switching between Berserker and Battle Stance during fights all the time. I was stance dancing as an arms warrior. Now, I'm sure most of you know of Blade Storm. So on these whelps, I popped all my cooldowns. Like, I managed to bump up my crit almost to I think 50% or something ridiculous. And so the tanks would pull the boss and the extra ad, and I would ask this druid, okay, forget about the group for now. They're not going to take damage if it works. And I had him heal me constantly, because what I would do, literally as soon as we pulled, I would charge in, and I would AoE everything, as in like the boss and all the whelps with Blade Storm, and that's I would do so much AoE damage with that, like ridiculous amounts, that I would actually clear all the whelps. But the problem is, not even the bear druid could hold aggro against this. So every single fight, I was keeping my my mate was keeping his battle res for me, because he would have to battle res me because I would die from pulling too much aggro. That's crap.
I'm out of range.
So that was actually pretty funny. Eventually we cleared Bastion the Twilight. We killed Alakir eventually. And yeah, we basically cleared the entire tier. We were doing heroics, and then Firelands comes out, and so we stuck together for Firelands as well. At this point though, I started to get really into PvP. Like, I was playing a Frost Death Knight in PvP, and well, I was so my Death Knight was my PvP main. I was playing Frost and Blood. Frost for Battlegrounds, Blood for arenas, because if you remember arenas in Cataclysm, it was basically a Blood Death Knight 1v2s your team, and wins often. So that's why I had Blood. Like, the healing was ridiculous. And so eventually I started doing rated battlegrounds with my guild. They were actually decent. I was Frost DK. I had no decent gear at all. No one ever found out about that. I was still using level 58 blues in raid battlegrounds. But there you go. That was pretty funny when they found out. I was still topping damage meters and everything. Eventually I did get some really good gear on my Death Knight. And so we were actually still gilded. We had some drama with like people trying to merge us. We were still gilded. Like, this was my original Ice Crown guild. We were still gilded into Firelands, going strong. Bale Rock was an absolute nightmare to tank. He would do so much damage, but man, that was such a fun fight. I loved tanking Firelands, I really did. But too much trash. Really just a bit too much trash. Excuse me.
I can't cast down here.
We could never ever down Ragnaros, so we brickwalled on Ragnaros. Unfortunately, it was a pain, but you brickwall on some bosses sometimes. And Ragnaros was a big step ahead of anything else. Like everyone had trouble with Ragnaros.
That's still recharging.
So we clear Firelands. We actually started doing some of the bosses on Heroic. Mostly the one that was walking around for Heroic gear. And I was keeping my druid up to date, and even by this point my druid was actually almost my main by the end of Firelands because I was using it so much. That's the closest my warrior has ever been to being an ult, which is crazy. It was funny. Eventually, Dragon Soul came out, and now so Dragon Soul was the tier that made me quit. I had felt by then the game had gone way too easy. In that it was easy for me individually as a player. Teams, like my team, were always struggling, and we would always wipe due to other people. So during Dragon Soul we were there forever because, as you remember, it was a long amount of time with no content. So we did Dragon Soul. We cleared it very, very quickly. We even started doing heroics, and we cleared those really quickly. These were on mains and on my druid. Looking for raid, like we all got super lucky with our tier sets in looking for raid, and honestly, we actually started ninjaing stuff for other players in our group.
I can't carry anymore.
Even if we already had stuff, which technically you shouldn't do, but it was looking for raids. Everyone was doing it. So yeah, I was getting bored by then. I felt things were too easy. Looking for raid made things a joke. Looking for dungeon was bad. Looking for raid was even worse. And it's a problem I still see in the game now. I was still watching podcasts at this point. So oh yes, there was this other story I wanted to share, and it was about my Death Knight. So my Death Knight, back then, my Death Knight was still like fully PvP geared, and I sort of did something like this is like 2 weeks after we did some heroics in Dragon Soul.
Recharging.
I joined a pug. Well, there was this guild that wanted someone. I joined as their pug. They wanted a main tank, and I was a Blood Death Knight. No, it's Blood Death Knight, not tank. So I had no PvE gear on my DK. I only had PvP gear. Yeah, this started to get really funny because these were heroics. You're meant to be fully geared in PvE normals first. I wasn't even anywhere close. I had one PvE item, which was my weapon, which was it was a tentacle sword basically. So I went into this raid as a main tank PvP Blood Death Knight, and so some things were brought up after the first fight on the damage meters, like, and they thought it was just something unusual that me in my PvP spec, I had come top damage as a tank. I had also come top healing as a tank. All that was self-healing on me 'cause I had a lot of mastery. Like my whole arena idea was to maintain. Oh, I've got a lot of skinning level. So my whole thing was just to maintain my health as long as possible in arenas, and I had damage with that as well. So yeah, excuse me. So people started looking. They started looking at this after the second boss in succession. I topped all the meters, and I remember one of the maids saying, "How comes our tank has less health than me?" Which was true. I had less health than the DPS, and I was tanking. Yeah, that was how dumb it was. So, by virtue of the fact that I clearly knew what I was doing, they actually left. Like, they actually left it. They allowed me to continue. I think eventually someone had to go, which is why we couldn't continue raid. But I actually started picking up some PvE gear. So I actually started building my Death Knight as a tank, like a PvE tank as well. But I was severely losing interest because Dragon Soul was just way too long, and I was honestly getting bored of the game. And then the worst thing they could do for someone who already felt the game was a bit too easy, they announced Mr. Pandaria. And I virtually quit as soon as they mentioned pandas. I'm sorry, but I just had to. I mean, I could not deal with the game being any more easier than it was. And I saw pandas as well. They're dumbing it down. They make it even more for like kids, and they're gonna make it easier. So I basically quit then. It wasn't just a spur of the moment decision. I had been considering it, but I didn't just flat out quit. I started playing other things, and eventually I stopped playing. And That's how things went.
Till next we meet.
I have been keeping up to date, and something that's sort of brought me back to the game lately has been lore, as in the lore of the game,
Watch over you.
not the not the Blizzard employee. But yeah, I love the lore of the game. I mean, fighting the old gods is pretty awesome. Fighting Sargeras is going to be awesome if we do it in Legion. And so I'm prepared to play again in Legion, see how it is, but I must address some things. Looking for raid, I really hope that's been improved. I mean, I know some of the changes they've done to raiding, like the mythic, etc. I mean, I don't know. I think mythic sounds good. Flex, yeah, it sounds more for casuals. I just think flex might be a bit too easy by the sounds of it. And looking for raid is just basically AFK mode and get loot. Hopefully it's not any decent loot anymore. That sucked getting the tier pieces in looking for raid. Like tier pieces that were required for certain fights. I'm flat gonna say required for certain fights. So yeah. Another thing, I'm really skeptical on artifact weapons in Legion. Part of the enjoyment of like getting loot is getting the weapons. Like the weapon drops were always the best loot that you could hope for, and a weapon drops, and there's always some hype in the group because someone's about to get a huge upgrade. But I think the lore these weapons are going to have are going to be pretty awesome. I think the warrior ones look trash though, unfortunately. I wish they were better, but I don't think they will be. The fury ones, I think they're going to make those bigger at least. I mean, it's like the warlock ones I think look awesome. So yeah, two raising warlords I heard. Don't know what happened there. Did they forget a third raid tier? So there's actually been speculation that this might be the last expansion. No. We're not going to do the last expansion without clearing up the two remaining old gods at least. And I don't see us doing anything to the one that's supposedly under Tearful Glades, which I'm on that bandwagon. I do think it's an old god, despite what Blizzard say, because the map suggests so. But we will have to wait and see. Enzoth will be fun to fight. And remember, Yogg-Saron technically isn't dead. Cthulhu technically isn't dead. I'd love to fight one in its full form, because some people say, well, if we fight Sargeras at the end of this expansion, who left is there for us to fight? How about old gods in their full form? That could be tasty. So yeah, I think WoW has some more longevity in it. Despite subs falling, it's still got way more subs than any other game in existence. So I don't think it's at any risk. Having said that, me returning, there are going to be some things I'm looking for. I do like, so far I've been looking at things, I do like how mounts are now account wide, same with pets. I like the way the new heirloom system is. I like that like your heirlooms are available on different servers. That's great. Talents I think are garbage. Like absolute garbage. I did not like the mop talent, like mop talent revamp at all. I I preferred the old talents as they were because you could have more customization. As they are now, I really don't like them. But yeah, I'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, as for now, I'm going to probably sub up and get prepared for Legion. If I do start playing, I will be making WoW videos, so let me know what you want to see from those. I can't do anything too extensive. I basically need to be able to record the stuff myself. Yeah, I just sort of share like my experiences and thoughts about WoW. It's a game that it's a game I played for years, and I'm sort of getting on the hype train again. I think there are some improvements they have made. There are some improvements they still have yet to make. And all in all, I'm actually looking forward to see where the story goes after Legion. I don't think we're going to kill Sir Garrison Legion, my personal opinion. I mean, it's possible, I don't think we will. But I'll have to get through the panda stuff first, the panda leveling content, the warlord leveling content, and then finally the Legion stuff. I will be rolling a demon hunter for sure. I'm not sure if it's probably gonna be Horde, because I'm a Horde player. I mean, this is a one-off that I'm actually using an Alliance character, but I thought I'd make a change. So yeah, I've actually got a Gilnean top hat, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've been here this long with my ranting.
I am listening.
So yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and
Can I assist you? Good luck.
if you want to see more WoW videos, leave likes, because I want to make the content that people want to see, and not just content which no one wants to see. So yeah, I will catch you guys later. Bye for now.